Well, guys, somehow we already have more heroes added on test server. We haven't even gotten Malrig yet, but already we have Vaughan, who is really cool looking, and we also have two other heroes, including the ESO Lord, Nastia, which we've been seeing around, you know, briefly, little bits and pieces since the My Bucket interview. She is actually revealed, and we can see her now. And I'm going to be showing you guys her right now. And then we also have the second ESO Lord. Piercers have a second Epic Lord. We have a second, oh my god, I can't, I can't think. Basically, 3 factions have 2 Epic Lords. And now, Esotericists have them too. All of these heroes are poison related. And from what I can see, with Phelan being added, who's a poisoner, all 3 of these guys being added, who's a poisoner, and Numera, who is not out yet, one of the only heroes on Forerunner that is not on Global, Numera got buffed recently. So it seems like they're trying to lead up to Esotericists becoming a poisoner faction and poisons becoming better, which is really interesting. And I'm going to dive into that a little bit in this video, but I have not really read any of these kits because I find it interesting for me as someone who makes videos. I like having first impressions. So I'm going to be going in completely blind, and we are going to start with the Esotericist Lord. This is the very first time ever that we have gotten a 3rd legendary Lord. So we can expect that we are going to get a 3rd one for every single faction, except maybe not Arbiters. Maybe we'll get the 2nd Arbiter Lord eventually. I don't know. But she looks very cool. We've known about her design for a while. She is Esotericist Lord once again. Mage, magic, single target attack, continuous damage, and ally buff. Pretty basic attack range, you know, for a mage. Her base attack is really high. I didn't even notice. 5,300 attack is one of the higher mage base attacks in the entire game. Praetus, Ingrid come to mind. Ingrid has the highest. Praetus is actually lower than Nastia, and also very high HP stat, which is really good. Keep her alive in Abyss, keep her alive in APOC. 25 cost is kind of ridiculous, but that's kind of par for the course for Lords. Pretty normal stats otherwise. Moving in, let's start with the talent. Has a 40% chance to inflict 40% acute poisoning. What the hell is acute poisoning? Increases all poison and toxic surge. What the hell is toxic surge? Okay, I'm excited because there's a lot of new stuff, but increases all poison and toxic surge damage taken by 40%. So it makes poison better. It's like poison sensitivity from Raid, if anyone played that game. It also adds a stack of poison when dealing damage. When receiving direct damage from enemies, inflicts 40% acute poisoning and 1 stack of poison to the target. So she's both poisoning them and making poison stronger, which is good. Poisons, I think, can stack up to 10 times. So let's say you're doing, you know, 50% continuous magic damage from having 10 poisons on. It's actually going to be 140% as long as you have acute poisoning. Moving on to the basic attack, deals 120% magic damage to one enemy, prioritizing the one with the highest HP. That's kind of interesting. We don't get many abilities like that. Now let's go over to, actually let's go over to the Lord skill now. Esotericist's Curse. The first 2 lines, the first 2 things are consistent between all of the legendary Lords. 15% increased faction member attributes, reduced faction team member skill cost by 25%. That's normal. But her specific thing is increases faction team members damage against targets inflicted by debuffs by 5% per debuffs, up to 40% increase. This is pretty good, I will say. If, let's say, having multiple stacks of poison matters, like let's say you have 5 stacks of poison and that makes it go up to 25%, this has potential to be a very strong Lord skill, but it's so contingent on specific things that I'm curious to see how it plays out. I will have to test this later. Anyways, going up to the first passive, Each time poison is successfully inflicted, which is almost all the time, deals true damage equal to 10% attack one time. For every 1 stack of poison on the target, increases the true damage on this hit by 1% up to 20% increase. Damage multiplier increase cap goes up to 10, so it's actually 30% increase, and the true damage goes up to 4% every single time. That's pretty cool. Basically, true damage, if you didn't know, is incredibly important. It goes through defenses, you know, it's its own type of damage. It's the best damage in the game. This is pretty interesting right here. Moving on to the second passive, gains poison immunity. Possibly we might get some content where we're getting poisoned a lot, or already we kind of do have that with APOC. We have that with, I'm pretty sure one of the new tower stages has that, and each time successfully inflicting poison or refreshing it 6 times increases the hero's attack by 4%. Damn, stacking up to 10 times. That's kind of crazy. That's 40%. Damn, 40% extra attack? Why? That's so much. So she's getting true damage from poisons, from putting out poisons. She's putting out the poisons all the time, putting out increased damage on the poisons. And then she's doing true damage and extra attack, and she's boosting Esotericist a lot with poisons. That's kind of cool. But we still haven't talked about the ultimate. This thing is only 450 cost. You start with 200 of it. It lasts for 3.5 seconds, which is actually good, because the sooner it ends, the sooner you're allowed to build up your next ultimate. Deals 260, well, here, deals 320% damage 6 times to one enemy with the highest HP and range. Inflicts 1 stack of poison and magic resistance reduction 30%. Holy, that is a lot with each hit. For every 1 stack of poison on the target, increases the ultimate's damage by 1% up to a 30% increase. But you can't get it higher than 10 because poison caps out at 10, doesn't it? Yeah, stacking up to 10. I feel like this is worded weird because that shouldn't be possible. But either way, magic resistance reduction 30% I think is the highest in the game. It's very hard to find this. Lyra's like the main person that does this. That is a lot. Honestly, it's not the most mind-blowing lord ever, but it has potential, especially if they're trying to make Esotericist a poison synergy faction. It's not the craziest thing ever, right? It's not like Ingrid, you know, which is a good thing. I would rather not see another Ingrid. Anyways, A1 is on the ultimate, and what this does is each hit of the ultimate inflicts stun on targets with poison. Amazing for APOC. It seems like they definitely have a lot of APOC usability, and when activated, applies poison immunity to allies within 2 tiles. That's really good for APOC. Makes it so much easier to survive. A2 plus 300 base attack. Increase faction team members' penetration by 5%. A3, if only 1 target exists in range, increases acute poisoning inflicted by talent to, holy shit, 70%. That's a lot of damage. 170% magic damage a second. That's pretty good. I mean, that's a good A3, you know, 30% more damage. To poisons. A4 extra penetration. A5 deals increased damage to targets inflicted with poison, which is pretty good. Overall, I mean, I'm gonna say it, I don't think they're standing out that much to me. But keep in mind, this does have to be tested. A lot of this stuff is unprecedented, and I'm not sure how it's gonna look with some more analysis, but so far I'm not as hyped as I thought I would be when we saw some early information about her. But I am more than happy to be proven wrong. Anyways, let's go to the other Esotericist Lord, the epic one. Starting off with Vixera, she's Esotericist. Base stats are going to be 3,700 attack, which is actually really high for an epic. Very low HP, kind of typical for an epic. 18 cost, normal stats here. Single target attack, continuous damage, ally buff. Almost exactly what the legendary is. Basic attack is 40% chance to inflict poison. Each time the hero inflicts a stack of poison on enemies, permanently increases the hero's magic resistance penetration not reduction, but penetration, which is worse because it only benefits her, up to 30% increase. It looks like they just kind of modeled her after her. So she's just like a mini version, which is kind of interesting. A1, extra damage to one enemy. Passive, first passive, when receiving directed damage from enemies, there's a 30%, 50% when skilled chance to inflict poison on a target enemy and deal an extra 180% damage to them. Interesting. ESO Lord is going to be the same as all of them. And then we get to Rite of Torment, which is the ultimate manual, 600 costs, 400 initial. It deals 500% damage 3 times to one enemy, inflicting 2 stacks of poison each time. This is kind of, I mean, for single target content, which might end up being viable for ESO, it will be better than Raiden. But currently, ESO is kind of an AoE faction. So, I don't know, man. A1 basic attack inflicts acute poisoning on the poison targets. That's pretty solid. Almost 100% uptime. A2 extra attack. A3 reduces damage taken from enemies inflicted with... Ooh. Is this her damage or is this everyone's damage? Because if this is everyone's damage, that's really good. But it reads like it'll just be her. A4 crit rate plus 8%. A5 increases ultimate damage multiplied by 150% up to 650. She seems cool, but she really is an epic. I don't think she'll be that usable for people later, but early game, maybe there's some viability, especially when we start to see more poisoners. Now, the final unit is going to be Vaughan, and Vaughan is honestly really sick looking. I really like this idea, or this design. I saw the helmet and I thought this would be like some more knight character, but nah, it's a freaking bug looking thing. This guy looks crazy. Here's a piercer. He's an esotericist, and from what I've heard from some friends with test server, he is the main guy you want to look for. So when you get him promoted, he increases his range to a normal piercer range, obviously. Damn, his base stats are high. So this attack is higher than average. 4,300 almost, and his HP is also higher at about 13,000, which is really good. We get 16 cost, which is kind of interesting. There's not a lot of 16 cost piercers. That's like Yovar, for example. Normal attack interval, normal stats right there. And he is single target attack, continuous damage, ally buff, offensive dispel, which I think is the new tag for stuff like Lucius, Lyra, stuff like that. Ooh, leg spike there. Anyways, talent can inflict 2 types of poison on the target. Ooh, 2 types or it twice. Interesting. When dealing damage by the basic attack, has a 33% chance to inflict 1 stack of poison and a 33% chance to inflict 1 stack of a different poison. Oh, wait. Is this going to be like 2 separate stacks? So instead of, you know how poison usually works, poison can stack up to 10 times. It caps out at basically 50% continuous magic damage per second. Does he allow you to have 2 of them? So it stacks up to 100% damage per second, per whatever. That might be it. I'm not sure. That's what it reads to me. And if so, that's actually really cool. And he might enable the other poisoners. I'm not sure that. Yeah, let's keep reading. When poison effect expires from the hero's attacked target, the hero gains 1% attack increase for each stack of poison expired from this target for 15 seconds, up to a 20% increase. Interesting. So he just gets more attack. 20% extra attack is a lot, especially because his base attack is so high. So that's pretty cool. A1, pretty basic, you know, 120% damage to one enemy. First, well, it's not a passive, it's an auto. Is every 15 seconds, it lasts for 2 seconds, deals 3 instances of 90% damage, inflicts 2 types of poison on the target. For each stack of poison on the target, increases damage dealt to them by 1%, up to 30% increase. So it definitely seems like something that'll be solved with everyone. Is maybe when they reach 10 stacks, they'll start a second set of poison. Maybe you need to have an enabler healer like, or hero like Vaughan, to kind of split up the stacks, but it definitely seems like it will actually be possible to get to that 30% because you'll have multiple sets of that poison stack. and each time successfully inflicting or refreshing poison reduces the skill's cooldown by 1 second. Okay. So when he puts out the poisons like this, he's going to make this come out faster. Then he's going to do a lot of damage. He's going to put out the poisons, and he's going to increase damage, essentially, the more he can do this. That's pretty damn interesting. Going to the second passive, or I guess the first passive, because the other one's an auto, increases damage dealt to shielded targets by 50%. Oh my god, it's a shield. It's a magic shield breaker. He's gonna be, oh my god, he's gonna be so good for Abyss. Is ESO and Piercer gonna be viable for Abyss? That's what this reads like. Apply shield break to, holy shit. Wait. Shield break is a buff now. Increases damage dealt to shielded targets by 30%. To 3 allied units with the highest attack on the battlefield. Each time the ultimate is cast, permanently gains 10% magic resistance penetration, stacking up to 50%, or 5 times to a total of 50%. This is what I'm really interested about, which is shield break. Abyss is really hard to break shields, especially the magic phase. And it seems like what they're trying to do with changing Numera, changing, you know, adding these heroes which seem to have decent single target potential. I can see the vision where they might all actually be viable in Abyss. That might actually be really interesting. And even then, even if only Vaughan is good, he will give shield break to, let's say, your Sulkadins, to your Hex, and they'll start to break that magic shield that you might be struggling with now. I think that might be, he has so much potential. And we haven't even talked about his ultimate, which is 500 cost, really fast, lasts for 25 seconds, so he's almost always going to have it up. Dispels up to 1 buff from the target. Then basic attack turns into 3 consecutive strikes, dealing 3 instances of 90% damage, inflicting 2 types of poison on the target. For each stack of poison on the target, increases damage dealt by 1%, up to 30% increase. He's going to be doing this all the time. I mean, you could see it from this thing up here. I don't know why it's so laggy. That's not on my end. But basically, 3 hits, poison, 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 poison. So he's functionally putting 6 types of poison per volley. So he's going to be doing 6 poison, 6 poison, 6 poison over and over again. The amount of poisons is crazy. You're going to be able to increase that poison by using either the Epic Lord or the Legendary Lord. It's going to be so much synergy. I love the synergy here. I think there's a lot of potential. It's just purely, once again, this has to be tested because we don't know how good it actually will. Here, A1. The shield break, okay, for a second I thought I was bugging out, but the shield break goes from 30% to 40% to all of the allied units. Really solid awakening there. A2 is extra flat attack, which is really good. A3 flesh warp can be classed 2 consecutive times, which is really, really interesting. So this gets more value. A4 penetration plus 5%. A5 enemies inflicted with poison deal 25% less damage to the hero. So it is this hero. Each time the hero deals damage to a poison target, restores HP. Doesn't seem like a good awakening because he is a damage dealer, but keeping him alive is solid. Just keep in mind, his base HP is really high, so I don't think he needs that. Overall, what do I think about the new heroes? I think they're pretty cool. Am I impressed the way that I was impressed with Malric? Was I impressed the way that I was with Ingrid or Talon? No, but I like the synergy. I like what they're going with here. I think Esotericist inherently had a problem with clashing with the Cursed faction because Cursed is supposed to be the AoE faction. They're supposed to be the AoE DPS specialist. And realistically, ESO is the actual AoE faction. It's basically you have a bunch of AoE units and then you have a bunch of trash. And that's what ESO is, with some exceptions, obviously. But, you know, Lyra, Init are more for their other factions. ESO's kind of in a weird spot. So I like that they're trying to give Esotericist an identity. I think there's a lot of potential here. And I really like synergistic units. I guess kind of to end stuff off, I will go over Numera very quickly, just so you guys can see where the potential with the poisons might be. Numera, Piercer, Esotericist. She has almost 5,000 attack, which is decent because she does magic damage. She is a fighter, 18 cost. Piercer, Esotericist, once again. Keep in mind, a lot of these guys are Piercers and ESO, which is really interesting. Piercer, Hex, Silas, really good faction. Might have some viability there. Basically, the way she works is she has Zillitu range, single target attack, hard control, continuous damage. Basic attack gains 1 Grimthorn Spike, which is kind of like Yovar. She just kind of builds them up, and she'll launch them later. This effect can maintain a maximum of 4 at once. When she has 4, basic attack has a 50% chance to launch 1 extra Grimthorn Spike, dealing 400% damage. It inflicts 1 stack of poison, and it restores 40% rage for the hero. So when she gets the 4 built up, every excess one she gets is going to do a lot of damage and get her rage to get back to her ultimate. Her basic attack is normal, like usual. First passive, Nature's Wrath, Grimsword Spikes. Additionally, inflict stun, good for Guild Boss 2, APOC. When at least 4 Grimthorn Spikes hit the same target in a short period, triggers 1 time of Toxic Surge, which consumes the poison effects inflicted on target, dealing a certain amount of magic damage based on the poison stacks consumed, up to 30 stacks, which is cool because the units we just talked about put out a ton of poison. So it's an instant boom detonation, and it does 30% damage per stack, which is really interesting. Second passive, each Grimthorn Spike inflicts Grimthorn Roots, which is continuous true damage based off of the caster's attack, stacks up to 6 times. And also damage reduction, which is really good for Abyss, really good for APOC. Really good viability there. Pair with the other units I just talked about, and that is an Abyss team that might actually be viable. She has 1,000 cost on her ultimate, but she gets to, 900 cost on her ultimate, but she gets to it pretty fast because she restores rage. Immediately gains 2 extra Grimthorn spikes, so she generally will toss 6 at the same time. Rapidly launches all her Grimthorn spikes to random enemies in range after charging for a short period. Each spike deals 520% damage and inflicts a stack of poison. So Numera has a lot of synergy with poisoners, right? Awakenings, A1 during the ultimate increases damage dealt by Grimthorn Spike, and Toxic Surge guarantees a crit, which is interesting. A2, extra attack. A3, when attacking enemies, ignores magic resistance each time Nature's Wrath is cast. Effect increases by an additional 5% up to 25% increase. Penetration on the A4, and heals the hero for 20% of the true damage dealt by Grimthorn Roots. You can see the vision that they're trying to go for. Once again, we will have to see. I think there's a lot of potential here. I will not be testing it tonight. It is 3 a.m. I kind of got really disappointed by my Malric testing video. I felt like I could have done so much more. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go to bed now. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to cover these 3 units. I might even, instead of covering them individually, I think I'm going to cover them all at the same time. It's less views for me, but I think it paints the picture a little bit better. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for watching the first impressions. I know it's not the, oh my god, why is it like this? Like it usually is, but I feel like leaving a level-headed approach to something that is just purely based off of synergy, not really the hero being broken, I think it makes sense. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you would like. I appreciate y'all for sticking by, and we'll see how good these heroes turn out, because I can just simply not make up my mind on them until I test them. See you guys later. Destined signing out.